Here. Isabel? Here. Murray? Here. O'Shea? Klein? Present. Short? Here. Mayor Box?
Here. Tonight's invocation, we're going to welcome Pastor Wagner from First Baptist in Sapulpa as he takes us to the Lord in prayer. Thank you, Pastor. Appreciate you being here.
Well, Heavenly Father, we thank you for this season of the year. We can celebrate your birth. I pray, Lord, that you would just tonight give this council wisdom as they approach the business of the evening. We thank you for all the citizens of Jenks that are in this room. And we pray that everything that's done and said tonight will bring glory and honor to Jesus Christ. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Please remain for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Merry Christmas to you, sir. Okay, we're going to start the night off with a little bit of fun. We have a proclamation that we're going to read tonight, and in doing so, I'd like to invite the Jenks Lady Trojans cross-country team to come forward, and you guys can gather around the podium. Run. I hear that's what you guys do. Run. Never stop. I thought there was 4. I had no idea. Maybe they were hiding outside. Do we have a captain? Who's the captain?
Both of us are. Oh, sorry. So.
There's 3 captains?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Sit tight. We'll have some fun here. The city of Jenks, Oklahoma, this is a proclamation to celebrate the Jenks Lady Trojans Cross Country Day. Reads as, whereas the Jenks Lady Trojans cross country team has won 16 state championships, and they have won 2 state championships in the last 3 years, and whereas all runners in the 2021 state championship for the Jenks Lady Trojans cross country team placed in the top 30. And in 2021, the Jenks Lady Trojans cross country won the state championship with 56 points. Easily beating the second place team with 104 points. Now, therefore, I, Corey Box, Mayor of the City of Jenks, do hereby proclaim December 22nd of 2021 in the City of Jenks as Jenks Lady Trojans Cross Country Day. So congratulations. We could have one of the captains, if you guys want to come and give us a quick brief of your 2021 season, and then we'll get a couple pictures if you don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right here.
Sure.
So basically, the whole season we went undefeated. Pretty sure, right? Undefeated? Yeah. Except for one race, Chili Pepper, that's in Arkansas. And we placed second at that race, which is the best we've done. Jenks girls have done, I think, ever. Which is pretty great. Great way to finish senior year for me and a couple of the girls. Yeah, we're just, throughout the season, our goal was to redeem ourselves from last year. We got a 4th place, and we're expecting at least top 3. So it was a really good finish, winning state, and working towards that. Just thankful for all our family, our coaches, and to God, and how they all have helped us.
Great. A question I don't know anything about cross country. How far do you actually run?
We run 3.1 miles. It's a 5K.
Okay, so that's a really small country.
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
All right. That's very good. And how many of you are seniors?
I think so.
So you guys are coming back? Are we going to expect you back here next year? Keep running? Okay, great. Gary, did you set this up? You want to get some pictures?
Sure.
Let's do it. Guys, hold tight. We'll get a couple pictures with her and wherever our photographer is. Oh, there she is.
Proclamation.
Yeah.
No.
Once they get here, it's gonna be, I want to be able to see all you guys. So.
all that?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, maybe that, and then, can I put you right here? You're a little bit. Yeah, maybe I'm just a little bit. So we're gonna do it with my phone and then the face camera. And for parents, this will be on the Facebook page if you guys want to see these photos. So the city Facebook page.
Parents, do you want to grab a picture while they're captive?
I'll use hers.
You sure? Okay.
Okay, so you want to see?
Mr. Isbell and I, and
Great.
we'll hop in, and you get over there, I'll go over there.
Want me to go in? Okay, we're gonna say thing, fancy camera and phone, so. Thank you.
Congratulations, y'all. Appreciate y'all being here. Thanks for being here.
Great job, great job.
To their leader.
Oh, yeah.
Very well, at this particular time of our meeting, we are open to entertain what we'll call citizens' comments. If there's anyone here that wants to speak on a topic that is not on tonight's agenda, then you're welcome to come forward. We just ask that you give us your name, your address, and keep it to about 5 minutes. Okay, very well. No takers for citizens' comments. Underway then. Item number 1 is consideration and appropriate action relating to a request for approval of tonight's consent agenda. Entertain a motion, please.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
We have a proper motion and second for item 1. Let's vote.
Lynn?
Yes.
Isbell?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
OJ? Sorry, Klein?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes, item 2 is pulled. Item 3, Jenks zoning 2-1, planned unit development 132, a request by Ryan McCarty for approval of a zone change to CG, commercial general, OM, office medium, and AG, agricultural, with a planned unit development allowing for mixed use of office, warehousing, and storage. General location will be the north of the fire station number 2, which is off of 121st Street. Mrs. Hilton, and we are on page 233 if you were following along.
Thank you, Mayor Box, council, and staff. This item was heard at the planning commission. I was correction when I wrote the planning commission summary. I said that it was approved 7-0. It was approved unanimously by the people that were present, but we did have one planning commissioner absent, so I apologize for that. I made that error on both of my staff reports. This item is north of 121st Street between Elwood and Elm. Currently, it's near what you would know as the Collab Coffee Shop. So kind of behind the fire station there, there's a little access road, and we had previously done earlier in the year a lot split and a rezoning for the office portion. Now, I think I noted at that time that they would be coming back with a planned unit development and plating. So that's where we're at. Mr. Jordan owns it, and he's looking to create they call it a horizontal mixed-use development, and by that it's just one level, and it's going to have multiple uses within the property. Those uses include office warehouse. I called them hobby garages. We had a long conversation in planning commission about what in the world you call these things. I felt like man cave was a little too narrow. Left out she sheds, and we couldn't really come up with anything. Maybe there is an answer, maybe there's not. It's about 21.41 acres. Staff is recommending a combination of zonings. About 35% of the property is going to be in a reserve area, and I told them they are welcome to leave that agriculture moving forward, but they would rezone to office medium, the area that is currently office medium, where they will have an office space, and the rest becomes CG. If you look on page 234, under the planning commission summary is where it says there should be a correction. There were several citizens at the planning commission hearing that kind of spoke from the audience. They never actually came forward and addressed the planning commission, but they didn't say if they were for or against the project. I have since then heard from one citizen who was opposed to the uses and would like to have seen residential there. I did reply back noting that there are deed restrictions and this area cannot develop as a residential project. On page 234, there is a use of charts, and it's I did my best to show you what's in the plan, what's in the PUD, what it would look like if it was commercial general, commercial heavy, or IL, IM, or in the new UDO. And as you know, the what's being proposed in the new UDO is dramatically different way to write code. And so it's very, very hard to show the comparison. So I did the best I could. If you go to number 10, for instance, they're calling that out as an allowed use. And in the new UDO, it's not, parking just goes with the use. It's not something extra. Use unit 15, it says other trades and services in development area B and D. And that would include self-storage, that is RV storage only and non-habitable condo style. So when they originally called it a man cave, the idea was I could, not a man, but I could still take my 1967 Austin Haley Sprite and maybe I want to tinker with it, redo the engine, redo the upholstery. And in the meantime, maybe I have a refrigerator and my grandchildren want to come over and spend time with me while I'm tinkering with my car. And they could do that in space. Then there are other uses. I won't go through all of them. They have a similar development in Midtown near, I don't know if you're familiar with Big Whiskey, but they have a similar development there. And some of their leases have become small beauty shops and some other things. So they would be allowed to run a small retail in some of these. And it's been very successful. They're small enough that for people who are startups, they can get in with a low overhead cost and create some retail sales and some other things. If you would ever like to go and see it, I'm sure Mr. Jordan or any of his staff would be happy to show you. If you look on page 235, it shows development in area A, which is office and studio, and that's about 6.8% of the development. Development area B is RV storage, that's about 6% of the development. Development area C is about 33%, and that's where you would see the office, warehouse, and retail. Development area D, I changed it to hobby garages. I've yet to determine what that's going to be called. It's 17%, and then development area E, 35% of the land area in this project is green open space. The page 236 shows the comprehensive plan. This was amended when they rezoned the office area, and it actually is a business park land use. And down lower is the zoning map. On page 237 is kind of the evaluation and the staff comments. I did talk with the representative for Mr. Jordan this evening. Mr. McCarty is not present, but he has other staff here and confirmed that the language in the deed restriction would be added to the planned unit development and to the plat, and that would give the city the authority to go in and make, if we got a call, for instance, that that maybe I wanted to do more than just tinker with my car, and I decided to stay there for 3 weeks on end, that the city would have the authority to come and tell me I cannot do that, and I would be asked to leave because I would not be able to reside there or domicile, which is the actual language. So they were fine with that. Then it starts on page 238, the actual PUD. On page 241, you see the exhibit map and the outline of the entire area. We worked with the, staff worked with the applicant and with public safety to get a product that was safe, had the correct connections, the required connections. If you were wondering what some of these lines are, I was able to zoom in on my computer, and these little lines are actually arrows showing the flow of water. As I get that. When you're zoomed out like that, you can't tell. Page 245 is the another zoning exhibit. And then there will be an entire PUD as seen on page 246. It shows some elevation concepts. It's more of a contemporary building. This is for the opposites coming in that area that was lot split, I believe. And then down below shows where you can sit outside your garage area for the afternoon. We have some nice warm weather. I think prohibited within the uses were sexually oriented businesses and medical marijuana. So you wouldn't be able to lease these for grow facilities or dispensaries. And I believe that is the bulk of my comments. If you see on page 259 under general provisions is where I asked them to add the language prohibiting domiciling. If you continue looking on page, in your packet on page 262 is the actual original deed with all the restrictions highlighted, and they have been included. And that is all I have.
So before you get too far, it doesn't allow for domiciling. Is that the tense of the verb? Is that a word? Can we enforce this?
Yes, sir. If it's in the PUD, we can.
Okay. Any questions from the council on my right? Mr. Isbell? Your microphone.
Not at this time.
Okay,
No,
I'm
sir.
sorry, I thought you raised your hand.
I was
Yeah.
making a comment that the deed restrictions are printed right there, and those do cover the family use, domiciling, sorry.
Okay. Very well. Mr. Murray?
On page 250, is that a replication of what the sign would look like for the entrance? And if so, how close to 121st would that be?
That is a good question. I do not know the location of that sign, but I do believe that is a sample of what they would ask for. It's not.
I would be concerned with the fire department in and out of there.
Yes.
That could cause a traffic blockage visual. And so just.
I think this is just a concept, and
Yeah, that's
and
what
the
I
idea
wanted to
is
make sure.
that the fire chief and the fire department would review this before anything would be approved.
Thank you.
Good catch.
I don't think it's as big as the Dutch Brothers coffee sign. Never gonna stop. Any other questions from council for Mrs. Hilton? Very well, thank you very much. Thank you, Mrs. Hilton. That being said, is there somebody like to make a motion on item number 3?
Are there any
Comments from the
comments?
audience, comments?
Oh, very well, that's right. The applicant's not here, I guess. Okay. Any questions, comments, or concerns from our audience tonight as it relates to item number 3? Very well. Okay, we'll go ahead and entertain that motion now.
If we make a motion, do we have to incorporate the verbal changes that Mrs. Hilton provided on page? You find it?
I don't think so.
No.
We do
No.
not? Okay, then I will make a motion for JC 21 PUD 132. Motion to approve.
Second.
Very well, we have a proper motion and second for item 3. We can vote, please.
Kalen?
Yes.
Isbell?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes, item 4 is ordinance number 1572 relating to JZ 21 PUD 132, a rezoning of parcel of land to CG, OM and agricultural, page 267. Any questions on the ordinance? If not, entertain a motion for item 4.
Make a motion to approve item 4.
Second.
The proper motion is second for item 4. We can vote, please.
Caitlin,
Yes.
Isabel,
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Short,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes, item 5, emergency clause for item 4 and 3.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a proper motion second. Vote, please.
Caitlin,
Yes.
Isabel,
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Short,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes, item 6, JZ21, Plan Unit Development 133, request by J.R. Donaldson for approval of a zone change to RM2 residential multifamily medium density and a planned unit development, the general location being 504 East B Street. Mrs. Hilton, we're on page 271.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Box, councilors and staff. This is a townhome style project. They asked for the higher zoning because of the density that they were asking for, but it is built and designed like a townhome. So they'll have the shared wall and they'll meet all the building code requirements for a townhome. It is in that area. This is the location is in the overlay district. So this is north of the downtown core, and it is 5th and B. And so in that area, you're going to find single-family housing units, some higher density housing, office uses, and Jenks public schools. So we have a lot of different things going on in that area. This project is called B Street Gardens. I did receive a couple of phone calls from citizens. They didn't state opposition or any type of concerns or approval. They just were asking what the zone change was about. They are looking to do 18 units, and they are 1,200 to 1,800 square feet, and they will be brick, stucco, or EBIS. The chart on page 272, I did not use the new UDO to help explain the differences. But there is a chart that would show you if they had done an RS2, what the requirements would be, what the PUD requires, and what the RM2, or the townhome, and then the RM2. So when it comes to lot width, they're similar to a townhome project or a multifamily. When it comes to lot area, they're a little bit under the requirements of a townhome. On the structure height, they're at 35 feet or less, and the livability space is required for an RM2 to have 400 square feet per unit. The property line from I believe B Street would be 6 feet, and then on the south of the alley would be 28 feet. So they're set back a little bit further on the alley, and then a little bit closer. And then they're also a little bit closer on the east side and the west side. So if you look on page 273, it shows the general location. They're next to a project zoned office. And then there's an RM3, which is a higher density to the south of them. And I believe the one catty corner, the PUD 102, is an RM2, which would be the same zoning. Then at the bottom of that page, you'll see the current land use map there, which allows for high intensity single family. The PUD 133 was a request, again, to rezone to RM2 and to place a restrictive zoning PUD over the entire area. And I have provided some comments there. On page 277, page 276 starts the actual PUD. Page 279 is kind of a site plan, and this is not the original site plan that the applicant submitted. We worked through a couple of them and told them what we were looking to see. If you're looking at this, on the page, the arrow points to the right, which is north. So B Street is on the right, 5th Street is on the top, and the alley is on the left of your page. They would be required to improve the alley to city standards in that area. Let's see. If If you look, this is part of the original Jenks, this is a plat, so that's on page 282. You'll see the area, the lots, the lots are all part of block 10. And then on 283 would be a new plat, and be lot 1, block 1. And that is the conceptual plat. I will say, if they decide to sell, they would have to plat it as individual lots, or do some type of condominium style thing, and that part has not been determined. So if they wanted to keep 9 of them and rent or lease 9 of them, then that would, or sell 9, something like that, that plat will come back to you looking a little bit different possibly, depending on how to do it. They have a similar chart, which I did revise after the planning commission hearing. On page 286, they show a sample of what they are wanting to do. It's just very traditional looking brick with 2-story little balcony area and little front door. That is it. I do not have any more comments. Do you have any questions?
Any questions from council on my right? This is
Well, as
Lynn.
always, parking's gonna come up. And, how many on council even go and travel B Street? And if so, do you travel when school's getting out?
No.
So, that is a very strong concern of mine, because it's parallel parking. And if I'm reading the map correctly, parallel parking, I'm not against the townhouses, but I think we need to expand on parking a little bit more and not have it on B Street. Because it's heavily trafficked, even when school's not getting out. It's one of the main arteries, for many things, and it's all related to the school. So, I would like to see the parking revisited and taken off of B Street. I would be more inclined to see it on 5th and 6th Street than B Street, even though 5th Street is about as busy as B Street, but not quite, So I think that we're going to create a traffic obstruction, because not everybody can parallel park, like I said, I used to do it pretty good, but I'm not sure I could today. So those are things that I think, that we be concerned that we need to talk about.
I count 10 parallel parking spots, and how many total parking spots are on the west side?
There's 24 in the alley and 10 on B Street.
Okay. So out of 34 parking spots, 24 are actually traditional straight-in parking, and 10 are.
But that's what I'm saying, if you've ever been through there, people avoid it like the plague that are around this part of town when school, and especially when there's school activities, and you've got football games. I mean, I could give you a list of 20 different things in regard to, and I'm talking bumper to bumper. I'm not talking just a little bit, and you can try and cross the bridge, and you will back up to Louise. You go all the way west on B Street, and it's bumper to bumper. Now, you can say, well, people are working, so those parking spaces would be empty. We don't know that. We have to take it as if there's parking space. People are parking there, we're trying to park there, and how we can do this. I wonder, who designed this? Are they from Jenks? Do they know Jenks?
Mr. Donaldson is the consultant, he is present and can answer your questions. He is not from Jenks, he's from Biggs area.
But if you look at the parking spaces at 6th and B on 6th Street, the parallel parking spaces are deep enough into the actual property of those kind of townhome multifamily development that there is plenty of space for those cars within the existing parking off of the street. It doesn't impede, and I would think that, the parallel spaces here would have to be deep enough that there wouldn't be issues with, and I understand what you're saying about B Street, but also I would, you know, if someone's coming or going, my guess is they would be parking in the alley would be their first option if it was busy, before they would ever go look to be parking in the parallel parking.
Depends on where their apartment's located within this complex.
Maybe, if it's raining.
You know they're gonna park closest to their townhouse. So that is the thing, and the thing is, can they parallel park? Are they going to obstruct traffic? Are we going to get into something like that and start getting calls? Me start getting calls, you know, as far as the obstruction and the type of parking. I appreciate the parallel parking, you know, but I would like to ask Mr. Donaldson, you know, to come over here when school's letting out and look and see what is going on in town. Again, not everybody can parallel park, and you may spend 5 minutes trying to parallel park and then go to the alley. I'm doing a lot of projection here, and I realize that, but that's what this is all about. So I'm just putting that out there, so when it happens, it'll be. That's why I'm just wondering if we couldn't figure out how to rearrange parking. It's easy to put it around the building, and it's a little more difficult to do a problem solve.
Okay, we can ask the applicant to talk about parking, like, any other questions, Mr. Isbell?
The only question I had was, with regard to the parking off of the alley, is that reserved parking for the units themselves?
It would need to be reserved parking.
So it is reserved parking, so the
I'm
only,
making that assumption just because the number of units there. I'm not saying that no one could park during the day if they ran in to have a lunch somewhere and wanted to, but it would be my assumption that these are reserved for the apartments.
Will be on their property.
Right, it's not,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
public parking.
and the point I was getting to was visitor parking might be limited.
I think that that is, if we see the type of density and change that is proposed in the projects that we expect to see in the near future, then this will be a conversation that we have probably every time. Because it will slow traffic down a little bit, it will cause people to have to find alternative parking spaces, just like in downtown Broken Arrow or in other cities.
I do have another question, sorry, looking down here at my notes. I see that there's only for this large of a project, that there's only 2 handicaps.
I think the building code determines how many are needed. They're showing 2 now, and that may be all that's required, but the building code would dictate how many spaces are required. And I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what that number is.
The other question I have is the only parking spaces that we're looking at on this diagram, are those to fulfill what the ordinance or the code is for this development? In other words, our ordinance says, or the code says we have to have so many parking places.
It requires 36, and they have provided 34. Or that would be, because they are building 2 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms require 2 parking spaces in the current code. So it requires 34, or 18 times 2 is 36. 36 spaces, and they provided 34.
Okay.
So we're in a scenario right now where the worst case scenario is that there's 36 cars represented, and that's not likely. But the worst case scenario, there'll be 36 cars that live in this project, and we have 34 spaces. And that's an extreme scenario. I don't even know if it's realistic. It very well could be that there's 18 cars that live in this project. In that case, we'd have a variety of, a number of empty parking spots. Just kind of keeping that in mind.
Well, knowing how fast things go, we have to look at the fact that it's going to be a full people are moving here as soon as.
Yeah, I just don't think at the size of these apartments that you're always gonna expect to have two people, two cars in one of these. And I guess the price point in the marketplace will determine whether or not, it's how full it gets. And
So the other question that I'm trying to is, we haven't even talked about if they have visitors. That's gonna put parking out on the grass, and that's gonna cause obstruction. So we haven't even provided for a place for visitors to park. Is it difficult? I know this area, everybody here knows I know this area like the back of my hand. I'm just trying to do a problem solve. I think the townhomes would be a great addition. But we have to be sensible, because if they come in for football games and stuff like that, and it's parking because they park all the way down to my house. But if they're gonna have company to come in for football games, then you're gonna be parking on the grass, you're gonna be obstructing the street, and you're gonna have all the traffic, so.
what grass? What are we talking about?
There's there's resident-only parking signs
Yeah.
over there.
And it would
I'm
be,
sorry.
I believe there's a fence around the ends, they
Okay.
wouldn't be parking on the grass, they wouldn't be allowed, there's a fence.
Well, I understand it won't be allowed, but that doesn't mean they don't do it.
I have to drive over the fence. God help us, if they're driving over a fence.
They park down at my house all the time and it's not allowed.
Yeah. No, you bring up a good point, and the fact is the extreme scenario, if we have 36 people living here and 36 cars, and they each have 1.0 friends, they're screwed. But the code doesn't allow us to necessarily consider how many friends and how many visitors people are gonna have. So I'm not particularly concerned that we're too short on the code on parking spaces, because there won't be a single project we ever approve if we're gonna Mike Sharp this and go by the book. I mean, this is pretty reasonable as far as the parking combination. I don't know if you guys agree or not, but I agree, those things are gonna, bless you, we're gonna have those issues. And I think we may have, as you are aware, we may have a remedy for some parking that we can't talk about tonight, but maybe it's a little too far away to walk, but
Well, I just wanted to be on record.
Yeah.
So whenever I get the calls and stuff, like I say, I tried to tell you guys.
well, you tried. Don't worry. I'll make sure they have your number.
I'm not wanting the townhouse.
Yeah, I know.
I just want the parking to see if we couldn't, how about taking out one townhouse and making it a parking lot?
We'll let the applicant speak to that, unless there's any more questions from the council. Mr. Short?
Is there a way to park on Fifth?
There could be, yes. I don't know how that impacts their green space, but there could be possibly some
I
parking
mean,
there.
that would make some sense to either put parallel or angled parking on the face, if you're driving north on Fifth.
I would-
There seems to be some space, I don't know if this is true form or not.
That's what I thought, but I wouldn't recommend the angled in parking. I think that the parallel.
Maybe get 3 or 4 spots.
Is there landscaping on that side of the building?
Barely.
Okay. So at what cost? Not much of a cost? Okay.
I do have concern if our code's 36 and we're only putting 34, we're going in violating our code. We find you to think about that. You just, if the code's wrong, we need to find 2 more spots.
Well, but that's what a planned unit development,
Yeah.
I mean.
This
the
isn't a
whole
straight
idea
zoning
is that
case,
They have
yeah.
to come through this process because they're going to violate the code in this, that, or the other way. But they're gonna provide a product that is, supposed to be superior to, what they would be required to do otherwise, and,
I understand. I just
And
like to maybe find them, maybe
Yeah.
just look into the west side, because I completely 100% agree with this project, 100%.
In my thinking on a PUD like this, looking at the code requirements, because we're not thinking literally about are we meeting the code? And I kind of look at it as, does the PUD get us 90% of the way to where the code would be? And if it does, great. And that's why it's a PUD. It's basically I don't want to call it a free-for-all, but it's an opportunity to apply some elasticity to some of our rigidness when it comes to these things.
If any of the units were one bedroom, they would only require, if they had, I'm not gonna try to do the math, But if they did one or two or three one-bedrooms, it would only require one parking space per code, and then they would.
Okay. Mr. Murray?
The exhibit one page you have shows a couple of handicap parking spots. And so that's something too that I guess would need to be kind of looked at if we're limiting, that we're gonna have to have some ADA approved spots. There may not be any ADA that are living in there, but yet they're committed, and there's a couple of parking spots too that we're gonna be committed to having open. So I just want to sure, because exhibit 2 doesn't show, exhibit 1 does, so I just didn't know if we're just showing both of them.
Yes, they, federal guidelines do require, X amount of ADA accessible, so you are correct.
Is there a reason that we couldn't, I'm gonna follow up on Councilor Short, that we couldn't move some of the parking over to Fifth Street and decrease the number of parking places on B Street?
I will let the applicant address that. I don't, off the top of my head, I don't see a reason why it couldn't be done, but, Mr. Donaldson may know some reason that I'm not aware of.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Hilton. Mr. Donaldson, how you doing this evening?
Fine, thank you.
I think we got a couple questions about parking.
Yes. J.R. Donaldson, 12820 South Memorial Drive in Bixby, and I represent the owner of the property, which is Marley Commercial Properties, LLC. One of the principals of Marley LLC has built a number of homes under signature homes in the Jenks area, so he's very familiar with that, and he does custom homes as long as buildings. To answer the question that you have with regards to parking, and I understand it, I have done a lot of work on Jenks Public Schools over the years with regards to everything from the football stadium to public school buildings, so I'm very aware of traffic in the Jenks, Ms. Lynn. The reason that we showed the parallel parking, because we knew that the traffic was moving east as adjacent to, and that we were going to pay, and it was brought up, the depth of the spaces would be 12 foot wide by 20 foot long, which was brought up, is going to be a little extra wide as opposed to a typical space being 9 foot in width. The other comment that you had is by code, we have to have one handicap spot per every 24 parking spaces. And so we had 2, and we placed them in a location that we thought would be accessible between the units as we went there. Now, to the question that you have with regards to the possibility of perpendicular parking spaces along Fifth Street, that is very possible that could happen. And we looked at that on one layout, we could get 12 spaces there. But when we were working with staff and the parallel parking, it seemed like a good fit since the traffic was flowing east and it looked like it wouldn't be obstructing. I understand football games all too well, having attended a number of Jenks football games, being from Bixby and being part of your conference next year, we'll be over here for years to come. But with that said, we do have the 24 spaces along the alley. We're going to improve the alley so that it carries a 75,000 pound fire truck load, so that's going to be an improvement. The additional, if we remove the spaces along B Street and we added approximately 12 spaces along Fifth Street, we'd meet the requirement of 36 versus the 34 that we have. So that's something that we can work with staff on. And we've so elegantly stated with regards to the purpose of a PUD is to set our guidelines, and yes, they are a little bit more restrictive, but it's something, it's a model that we will follow with the approval of the City Council and working with staff to achieve not only the zoning, but a very nice project in this part of Jenks. And so with that said, I'd be happy to answer your questions and try to maybe more define any questions that you might have.
I just was, my other thing was to get as much parking off of B Street as we could.
Thank you.
Mr. Donaldson, with Councilor Lynn's concern, does it make any sense, and I'm asking because I don't know, you have 10 parallel spots on B Street. Would it make any sense to somehow cut it down to 5 and take the balance and move them over to Fifth Street? I mean,
That's a good
can we
suggestion.
have a compromise here?
Absolutely.
I mean, most of the time now, because there's 10 parallel parking spots, I don't necessarily see this being, I don't see 2 or 3 people trying to park at once, but if there were only 5 spots there and everybody had a lot of room, it's probably not a safety issue. Maybe they could move a few of those spots over onto Fifth Street. Is that a good compromise? I'm not here to cost you money or get you to redo all these drawings, but maybe it's just a little congested on B Street.
I understand.
Yeah.
And one thing, working with staff and the city engineer, we understand drainage issues in Jenks, and we understand that along B Street, we were going to put, there in the storm sewer, we were going to put storm sewer pipe in the water ditches, and then that was going to be paved. Well, in this particular case, if we put the storm sewer there and then we pave for 5 spots, we would actually then probably, working with staff, if we have a 12 typically by 20, we may have a 12 by 14 or 15 foot spot, a larger spot, to make it easier for those that, and maybe the younger people that struggle more with parallel parking than older adults, and such that we would then put the 10 spaces along Fifth Street, because we're going to be putting storm sewer pipe in the bar ditch, and it could be something that worked out quite well. Because this is to be a nice project, and that could even enhance it. So it's a good suggestion.
You know, these younger people, they can't
Yes,
park.
sir.
You know, they have like the 360 cameras in their cars, and some of the cars park themselves.
I've seen that on TV.
I don't think your argument holds a lot of water anymore.
Well, it does if you're still driving a standard stick shift and you.
I haven't seen one of those. And by the way, when you guys are in our conference,
Yes, sir.
you can't park in the city limits. We're going to bus you in.
Is that the way it is?
Yeah.
I'll have to pass the word along.
Yeah. We'll drop you off we have a designated drop off about a mile from the stadium.
I've walked that distance before, and I've watched state
Yeah.
playoffs when Jenks wasn't playing in the stadium.
Anyway, my only thought was if these are nice big jumbo spots, maybe the owner gets a little bit of what he wants. Maybe we get a little bit of what we want.
That's why.
And that's something I can work with staff, and we have no issues with.
Can we approve the project with those conditions? Do we need to see the plat again, or can we make?
It's not necessary. This is just a site plan.
It's just a site plan.
We'll redo the site plan first
Okay.
for the council conversation.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Mr. Murray?
Well, I mean, if we're talking about cutting back on B Street a little bit, you're gonna have some more room, and we get back to this 2 vehicles per household. Even if you put, say, 7 on B Street and 5 on Fifth Street, then we would meet our 36 that
Yes,
we're
sir.
trying to, that we keep going back and forth on. I'm just throwing that out for discussion. That's just something, but
Sure.
thank you for.
It gives the
at least being
flexibility.
flexible, thank you.
Yeah, that'd be good for us too, because it gives the council a track record of trying to, even despite the fact this is a PUD, we really do care about our zoning.
Oh, absolutely.
Because frankly, we get our, yeah,
Agree with that.
we're tired of getting our butts kicked
I
over
understand.
one little parking spot here and there. And so it'd be really nice if your owner can get to that standard and still have a product that they're proud of and it's profitable. That'd be great. It'd be a win-win for everybody.
Sure.
That's why I said if we could work together to solve the parking problem on both sides of the street, then that makes it a win-win for everybody.
Absolutely. I agree.
Any more questions for Mr. Donaldson? Okay, if somebody's gonna entertain a motion, then we need to go ahead and include a generic statement as to approval of the project with the requirements, with the comments made by council, and we're gonna leave it to you to make sure that the owner gets us to where we need to be. Yeah, okay. Everybody good?
Citizen comments?
Yeah. That's it? You got another one? You do? You have another question? Oh, you were going up and down in your microphone. Okay. Very well. If there's no more questions, we can invite the public to come forward if anyone has a question or concern to address on item number 6, JZ21.
Thank you.
You bet, sir. Nobody's shifting in their chair, so we'll go ahead and assume there's no public comment. We'll close the floor to the public. And if you're going to make a motion, let's just use those general comments we spoke about. Thank you, Mr. Murray.
I will concede with a motion that we approve this along with the discussion that we've had with the developer as well as Mrs. Hilton on looking at the parking situation so that it can be accommodated to at least accommodate both ends, if that's a proper motion.
Then I'll second it.
We have a proper motion and a second on item 6. Let's vote, please.
Caitlin?
Yes.
Isabel?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes. Item 7, ordinance number 1573 relating to JZ21 PUD 133, rezoning a parcel of land to RM2 residential multifamily medium density in PUD 133.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second on number 7. Vote, please.
Caitlin?
Yes.
Isabel?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes. Item 8 is the emergency clause for 6 and 7.
So moved.
Second.
Proper motion and second. Vote, please.
Caitlin?
Yes.
Isabel?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dell. Item 9, award a professional engineering contract for the Victoria Pond, South 109th Street and South Oak Avenue lift station and force main upgrade designed to Tektra Tech Incorporated out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and the amount not to exceed $326,632, including additional services. Funding for the same to be paid by both 2014 general obligation bond funds associated with account number 328445392 for design work related to the lift station, and the amount of $172,735, and Fund 56 reimbursement to Jenks Public Works Authority with the account number 568445392 for design work related to the force main for the amount of $153,897. We are on page 294. Mr. Cloyd, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council.
Sorry we made you wait.
No problem.
Okay. We'll save the biggest dollars to the end.
In 2013 bond issue, voters approved funding to upgrade the South 109th and South Oak Avenue, also known as Victoria Pond, lift station and force main. The service area for this lift station covers a large area that collects water from, that's wastewater from west of US Highway 75, north of the Creek Turnpike, south up to 121st Street, and east to Elm Street. The lift station and downstream force main were determined in the wastewater master plan to need upgrading and upsizing to increase operating capacity for ultimate build-out and to serve the increased population growth in the basin. Staff solicited 7 engineering firms to do the design work for this lift station and force main upgrade. 3 out of the 7 responded or submitted proposals, and Tetra Tech was determined to be the most responsive and highly qualified firm. The fee proposal has been divided to show the basic services on page 2 of the memo with the indicated cost not to exceed the amount shown for each defined task. Costs have been split between the lift station improvements and the force main based on the available funding sources. Only the lift station is included in the 2014 bond issue. Funding for the force main is available from fees collected when new subdivisions connect to existing infrastructure that have accumulated in Fund 56. Staff requests to award a professional engineering contract for the Victoria Pond Lift Station and Force Main Extension design to Tetra Tech Inc. in the amount not to exceed $326,632. Alexi Kendrick from Tetra Tech is present to answer any questions you may have about the contract or their project, their design project.
Thank you, Mr. Cloyd. Any questions for Mr. Cloyd from the council? Very well. What was the gentleman's name from Tetra?
It's, a lady's name, Alexi Kendrick.
Alexi Kendrick, and she is here.
She is here.
Does the council have any questions or comments for Mrs. Kendrick? We're going to give her the night off? Okay. Very well. Thank you, Mr. Cloyd. If there's no questions or comments from the council, we can entertain a motion for item number 9.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and second for item 9. We can vote, please.
Caitlin?
Yes.
Isabel?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes. Very well. Other business, city manager's report. Mr. Shrout, good evening.
Mayor and all members of council, we have some events coming up still in this year, and then 3 events in January. We have the Public Works Appreciation Holiday Lunch. That is tomorrow at the Public Works Yard at noon. We have the Oklahoma Municipal League Legislative District Dinner Meeting at the Battle Creek Golf Course in Broken Arrow. That is on January 11th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. We have the annual Jenks Chamber Banquet at River Spirit Casino at 6:30 on Thursday, January 20th. And then the Tulsa Regional Chamber Annual Meeting at the Cox Business Center at 11:30 a.m. on Wednesday, January 22nd. Sarah Tackmill sent out meeting invites for all of these, and if you could respond to her so she could, well, other than the Public Works Appreciation Holiday Lunch, so she can register you for those events, we would appreciate it. Also, Katie and the police department in Tanner went out and took some pictures today of some of the new developments that are coming online. The hatch and sidecar at Village on Main should be opening sometime in January. I think the last we heard was January 17th, but that was a couple weeks ago, so give or take a week or two probably. The Candlewood Suites is still working on finishing out the interior rooms. The cottages at 111th and James, I think we've issued 150 building permits for the kind of small rental houses that were approved out there. Trying to think of some others. We have Melody Courts that is under construction, and obviously the previously mentioned Dutch Brothers Coffee and their new sign. They should be opening anytime. So we have quite a bit of development underway right now, and so I think we'll have quite a bit of things opening here in the new calendar year. And thank you, Katie and PD, for getting those pictures. It's pretty neat to see the aerial pictures as well.
Well, Mr. Isbell, anything you'd like to share from the riveting visit to INCOG this past week?
Sure, you bet.
Don't forget I was there.
You were there.
Don't overhype it.
Okay, our last INCOG meeting was 12/24 last week, or excuse me, 12/14 last Tuesday. There was some discussion about the federal infrastructure bill, and we're awaiting funding breakdowns for that. Energy efficiency block grants, waiting for formula allocations for that. Well, that should come in January. INCOG was selected for a Build Back Better grant, and for details on that, I direct you to the Tulsa World article dated December 14th. That has all the breakdowns and details on the grant that was provided for the INCOG area. The Tri-County Council on Aging introduced a new member, Bob Lewis, and reaffirmed our own Kay Lynn to the Tri-County Council on Aging. The One Voice Regional Business Advocacy provided a list of items at the state level that they are monitoring. I'll briefly go over a couple of those. Bringing marijuana industry into compliance with business standards, as well as the federal regulations on banking with the marijuana industry. Providing ARPA funds for tourism, modernizing the Open Meetings Act, and some other issues that you'll see more details on in the near future. That sums up the INCOG report from last week. Do you want to add anything, Mr. Mayor?
No, sir, thank you.
Okay.
Any committee reports, anything happening in the field, anybody want to talk about? Mr. Murray?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, city manager, myself, councilors Isabel and Lynn met with the fire department and a representative from the ISO last week at the fire station to discuss some of the issues that we've been bringing up and discussing a little bit. Some of that is are things that she will be able to kind of help our department in maybe looking at getting some of the points that we need to kind of keep our criteria where it needs to be. But there's some things we'll still need to be working on, and so it's gonna be a project, for sure. And I appreciate everybody's attendance in it, but we can get it done. I think we can work on this and help out, so our ISO rating doesn't change and we lose some of our insurance funding the wrong way.
Mhm. Very well, thank you. And I want to say something to you guys, a couple things. In the next few weeks, we are going to be, the vice mayor's not here, but we really need to wrap our heads around getting a review for Mr. Shrout. He's long overdue. And sometime in late January, early February, we're going to be reviewing our city manager's contract as well. So we'll keep your ears peeled for that. We'll need to pay specific attention to that. He is within 6 months of his current employment contract being expiring. So out of respect for him and for wife and kid and everybody else who cares about employment, we're going to be looking at that pretty closely. So keep your eyes peeled if we send you any emails or texts, whatever the case may be, to take a look at that's very important to us in our future. I don't have a real report for you, but I want to just thank you guys. I do go to I've been attending a lot of things, and I talked in the April campaign, I kept saying relationships are very important. In some cases, they're more important than what you know. Because if you're not liked, you don't even get in the room, so who cares what you know? I can tell you guys, I really think this. The cities, I talk a lot with city managers and mayors from around the county, and we are very well liked. I think they like this group. I think they find us easy to work with, and that includes you as well in our staff. And even our governor pulled me aside and said, I think I feel welcomed in your city. So I think that's not just a reflection of this guy or me, it's a reflection of all of us. So I would encourage you, everywhere you guys go, I look at every day we're here, we're interviewing for this job to keep this job. So I thank you guys for being a good reflection on our city, for being professional. And I like the general tone and feel that I think hopefully you feel the same way. Every month we spend time just kind of kicking around ideas and what are we doing well and not doing well with other managers and city managers and mayors, and we got a good thing going on, I think so. 2022, I think we're going to see some pretty exciting projects that are coming our way. I think we're going to see some transformative construction on Main Street, and we've got some good news in other parts of Jenks. I think we're getting pretty close. We may see some shovels in 2022, and we're hearing positive things from that pesky little mall company. So and I'm not going to say anything more than that for everybody who's watching on YouTube, but we are hearing some optimistic things. And, if we could keep the sickness and the disease at bay for a while and just get rid of all these scary things that are out there, we might actually build one of these malls one day. So 2022 is going to be a great year. And I wanted to thank all of you that are here tonight and on staff for everything that you guys did in 2021. We got a really good group of people. I hope we can keep this nucleus of people for as long as that I stick around, and honored to sit here in the middle. So I thank you guys for being here, and I think you're all doing a really good job. Okay. And with that being said, do I have anything else? I think that was it. So if you guys would like to, we can have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
And I'd like to take a 5-minute recess before we start, if that's okay with you guys.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for adjournment.
Caitlin?
Yes.
Isabel?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes, we're adjourned at 7:07. Take a quick 5. Be right back.
Only five. No less.
winner, Charlotte Montgomery, for the fantastic cookies. That was her who brought them out. So, thank you. I think you've had like 3 already. All right, let's call to order the Jenks Public Works Authority. Roll call, please.
Kaylin?
Here.
Isabel?
Here.
Murray?
Here.
OJ? Klein?
Present.
Short? Chair Box?
Here, item number 1, consideration and appropriate action relating to a request for approval of tonight's consent agenda.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second for item 1. Vote.
Kaylin?
Yes.
Isabel?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
Chair Box?
Yes. Well, item 2. Item 3 is to approve resolution 2021-11 declaring certain land surplus and approving the sale of property to CVP Jenks DB LLC in the amount of $22,500. We are on page 131. Is this you, Mr. Shrout?
Well, we had originally, before Dutch Brothers was even planning to go in, we had a lease agreement with the person who purchased this property, and at the time, I think they wanted to put in a flooring store. And then when Dutch Brothers came in, I think we used a similar lease model with them to lease this kind of triangle remnant of what was Veterans Park, its floodplain. And then Dutch Brothers just recently came back and they would prefer to purchase the property outright. So I believe we had the property reappraised because the appraisal we had was fairly old. And so this 22,500 number, I think, is pretty similar to what the lease would have been over 15 years. And it's also, I think, almost slightly higher than the actual appraisal. So we think this is fair, and we don't need the property, and that's why we're declaring it, or requesting that you declare it surplus and then sell it to Dutch Brothers, or the developer.
Very well. Any questions from the council for Mr. Shrout? Okay.
You can ask Marseille about the sign.
They could have been bigger.
It's a little overwhelming.
Very well. No questions from the council. Entertain a motion for item 3.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and second on item 3. Let's vote.
Kaylin?
Yes.
Isabel?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
Chair Box?
Yes. Item 4 is request approval of the award of the Melody Lane, Union Avenue, and Country Lake Estates milling project to APAC Central Incorporated out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, in the total amount of $115,666.50. Funding for the same to be paid by the fiscal year 21-22 budget, which is account number 53521-5393, also known as the 1 cent capital fund street maintenance Tulsa County overlay program. Mr. Cloyd.
Mr. Chair and members of the authority, on July of 2016, the City of Jenks entered into an interlocal agreement with Tulsa County for the construction, improvement, and repair of the existing streets. Phase 1 included roads in Melody Lane additions 1, 2, and 3, and was completed earlier this year in January. Phase 2 will include the street sections you see below there, which will be the remainder of the road sections in Melody Lane and the Fraley addition, the Union Avenue from 91st to 96th Street, and the Country Lakes Estates addition. Tulsa County has the equipment and the personnel to provide the overlay of the asphalt pavement. However, they do not have the milling equipment. The City of Jenks does not have the equipment personnel to do this, so we have put this out to bid for a private company to do this work for us. So the project was advertised. The bids were received December 3rd of this year. Total of 3 bids were received as shown in the bid tabulation. The apparent low bidder was APAC Central Inc. in the amount of $115,666.50. The timing of their services will be coordinated with Tulsa County. I don't know if you're familiar with how road construction goes, but for milling and overlay, you do the milling first. It's basically just scratching up the pavement to a certain depth. In this case, we're taking the asphalt, the top 2 inches of the asphalt off in all of these areas, and then coming back with 2 inches of new, fresh asphalt, so we have a fresh, clean, or smooth driving surface. Staff recommends the use of APAC Central based on the references and the fact that they're the lowest bidder. Therefore, staff requests approval of the award of the Melody Lane, Union Avenue, Country Lake Estates Milling Project, Apex Central Inc., in the total amount of $115,000, $666.50. Do you have any questions?
Questions for Mr. Floyd?
Timing for this? Timing?
That's a good question, because we don't know when Tulsa County's going to get around now. I've been talking with Tulsa County a little bit about this for the past few months, asking about certain different things, and I think they're looking at the similar timing to what we did phase 1, so around the end of January potentially, or February.
No other questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Floyd. I want to entertain a motion for item 4.
Motion to approve item 4.
Second.
We have a proper motion and second on item 4. Let's vote, please.
Caitlin?
Yes.
Isabel?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
Chair Box?
Yes. Mr. Shroud, anything else in your general manager's report you may have forgotten?
I just thought I'd add that I know that I know staff appreciates, council coming to the holiday lunch, coming to the lunch tomorrow for Public Works, Councilor Murray and Lynn and others attending I think Councilor Isbell was at the ISO meeting. I think that means a lot to staff that you guys show an interest in these things, and so thank you very much for that. And Councilor Isbell today handed out, he actually made coffee mugs that have the Jenks flag on it and handed them out to all city and aquarium and Public Works employees today, so it really does mean a lot.
You blew it.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to deliver them to Public Works. I was gonna take them to the luncheon tomorrow. I hope nobody's listening. Surprise.
I guarantee you they're not.
Scratch that from the minutes.
Wait a minute, you made coffee mugs?
Yes.
They're pretty
And
neat.
do they look like
Yes, sir.
the ashtray I made in 5th grade, what's all lumpy and?
No, these look like professional.
Really?
Yeah.
The Jenks flag, how many did you make?
240.
In your garage or one of those little man sheds that she was talking?
Mansions are up, yeah, so,
Oh.
yeah, we did it at home. My wife and I sublimated all of the mugs. And it was a exercise in learning how to do sublimation, and the city was a guinea pig.
I think we're wondering where our coffee mugs are.
This is for basketball giving.
No, I didn't get one, that's what I was wondering. That's okay, I don't drink a lot of coffee. All right, well, thank you, I appreciate it, that's nice. So how many hope to make it tomorrow to lunch? Hopefully, everybody? Okay, awesome. And you guys are cooking up some burgers on the grill, Mr. Carr?
Yep, and some chicken tenders.
Got to bring your own hot dogs, though.
And you got a deep fryer out there?
No, they're already done.
Oh, they're already done.
They just need to be warmed up.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much. All right, looks like we have a chamber report. If Mr. Driscoll would like to, this is the last one for the year. Make it the
Last
best.
one of the year, we'll make it the best. And
Make it the longest.
I'm the only one standing between you and Christmas, so congratulations. I do want to just give a quick note. The incentive packages you guys have approved on the city council and the JPWA side are being noticed, and we're getting a lot of positive feedback for people looking at downtown Jenks and looking at rehabilitating existing buildings. So kudos to all of you, kudos to staff for working on that. It's making a difference in the interest level in current building owners and then restaurants in particular looking at coming into downtown. So this could be a very big payoff for us in 2022 to the chairman's point earlier. Just a couple of quick notes on the report. The two questions we really watch on the business checkup are the business revenue declining, maintaining, or increasing. We're about 50-50 growing and maintaining. We're still not seeing anybody talking about business going down, so we're still optimistic. The second one is related to workforce. We're seeing fewer people reporting workforce issues, but that's mostly due to the round of businesses we hit this last time. They're a little less dependent on entry-level employees. So workforce is still an issue. It's just maybe not as big a one with this round of businesses we hit in the last month and a half. So you mentioned new businesses or new things coming up. We're speaking with Gateway Mortgage about their new, or Gateway Bank, about their new location on Main Street. They're talking about mid to late January, so we'll expect an invitation to be out for that coming up in the next couple of weeks. So I was emailing with them this morning about it, actually. We're talking with TEDC, the Tulsa Economic Development Corporation. It's a creative capital group, and with the Small Business Development Center, which we've met with a lot during the COVID lockdown phase, about further partnerships to help some of our potential startups in Jenks. And Zach's working with a group of local entrepreneurs that are kind of got their own software companies and things like that in the community, trying to identify and target them and partner with them some of these resources. So that's something that we're hoping to really kind of get a really firm handle, something that we can actually touch and see next year, and ways that we can utilize them and help them become stronger businesses and contribute more to our economy here. So we're looking forward to that one. Chris stole my thunder on Village on Main. I had a note on that, so thanks for that. I do have good news. Riverwalk is in here. Riverwalk is doing some improvements. We met with their marketing manager I think it was last month it had to have been, about some of the improvements they're looking at making, some new programming, a few physical upgrades. So I think we're going to see some improvements to Riverwalk as well in the next year. And then just a last note here, it was Paula Ketty with the Aerospace and Aviation Education Program Coordinator with the Oklahoma Aeronautical Commission, and I got to know each other during Miss Oklahoma earlier this year. We're actually working on putting together a conference at Tulsa Tech with principals, superintendents, educational experts from the region about programs that they could partner with to get more aerospace students to sign up and kind of go through that. So we're looking forward to that. Obviously, if that happens, we'll invite you guys if you want to come and sit through that. But we're looking at doing that, I believe, in April. The date.
And don't forget that the new Riverside Composite Civil Air Patrol Squadron is now one of the largest period in Oklahoma.
They're one of the largest. But yeah, I think I'll probably reach out to you on that too. But
Yeah.
We're planning on reaching out to a lot of folks to try to make this a really big deal. We're wanting to really make a splash with this program, and hopefully from us on the chamber side, we've been looking at doing more in the aerospace industry, but it's kind of, once again, it's like, what is that we're looking for? So this may be a way to help get them more employees, more startups. Yeah. So with that, I will pause and answer any questions you may have. You will see a lovely picture here of the mayor shaking hands with Travis Meyer, by the way, from his television appearance. He signed autographs afterward for about an hour.
Mm.
Travis or the mayor?
Both.
Travis Meyer, not Travis Mayer. He makes it look easy, I tell you. I don't know what the heck I was doing out there. Anyway, any questions for Mr. Driscoll?
Thank you all. Have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you, yeah. Well, if there's no questions, then we can entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
A motion and a second, we can vote, please.
Caitlin?
Yes.
Isabel?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
Chair Box?
Yes, we are adjourned at 7:29.